I'm in the army. I was up in Darwin, and when I got out in 2003, just after the Iraq War started, I stayed in Darwin for a few years. Now in Darwin, there's a lot of US ships that come through there, and quite large groupings of US naval ships. And every time those ships come through, there are cases of rape that occur in Darwin. And it always hits the media there. There's always the case of, politicians saying, oh yes, we'll pursue this. They don't do anything. They never chase it up. The US turns around and says, we don't want charges, we want immunity. And while they don't actually say they've got immunity, that's in practice what they actually do. So it's hypocritical for the Australian government to start talking about the rule of law and proper process when it's clearly a politically motivated case. And clearly there is a huge risk to Julian Assange if he goes to Sweden of being extradited to the US. And that sort of brings us on to another thing that Standfast has sort of taken to heart, and that's the plight of Bradley Manning. It was mentioned in the introduction at the start of the rally. A soldier, a 20-year-old soldier at the time, who made the decision to either ignore war crimes or to do what he'd been told was supposed to do, according to the examples of the Geneva Convention, the Nuremberg trials. He decided to report those war crimes. He couldn't go through his chain of command. I mean, that's quite obvious for what's happened to him now. He couldn't go to them. And then there was this thing, WikiLeaks, that allowed that information to get out. Now what's he got for doing the right thing? He's been tortured. He's been tortured since about June last year. Held in the US, held in a military prison, held in solitary confinement. He's not allowed to speak to anyone. As I said at the start, he's sleep deprived. They play loud music, bright lights, all the tactics that they use. And I know this for a fact because I've seen them use it in prisoner interrogation. And the idea is to break that person down, to psychologically break them down, to get them to tell them what they want. Somewhere along the line they decided that, physically harming people, physically torturing people was unacceptable. So they've come up with a much more humane way of psychologically destroying people, which is not any more humane, but they've just decided it's a lot more efficient. This is what they're doing to Bradley Manning. And they're doing this over months and months and months. Like normally this occurs, over days. This has been happening for months. And a lot of people over there in the US who Standfast has links with a lot of the anti-war veterans groups and other anti-war groups in the US. And their feeling is that they're torturing him to try and get a confession from him. They want to break him down so that he will sign a bit of paper saying that Julian Assange rung him up or somehow coerced him into releasing that information. And as soon as they've got something like that, he's committed a crime that they can extradite him for. Now, of course, anyone who's got 5 minutes can look on the internet and see that that's not how WikiLeaks works. Part of it's, it's deliberately set up so that they don't even know who the sources are. Julian Assange didn't know who Bradley Manning was until he'd been locked up. Until Bradley Manning had been locked up and the case had gone public. But that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to get that link. So they've got some bogus reason to extradite Assange. And it is a very real threat. So that's why I would urge people to get online. Obviously Bradley Manning's in the US, but there's lots of ways that people can support him in the US. And I would urge people to have a look at that and see what they can do to support him, because the support that we give Bradley Manning helps counter their efforts to break him. And if we counter their efforts to break him, then we stop him signing that bit of paper that condemns Assange. I'll leave it at that.